I was always very conscious of the kind of self-talk I was doing to myself. Because the kind of talk I have with myself, it dictates the kind of choices I would make.
Yeah.
Those choices will get replicated in my behavior. And that behavior is just going to create a chain of experience, which is what we call life. So this is a very interesting, unlocking this entire process was very interesting, but it was also very difficult because there is no switch on and switch off plug you have for your thoughts. They keep coming in, they keep going out.
Hello everyone, Namaste. You're watching yet another episode of The Midnight. I am Ashna Juneja and I bring to you one person each week who's at the middle of his or her own journey towards that one big goal. Today I have with me Anusha Shaktawat. She's currently preparing for a competitive exam which has a qualification rate of 0.1%. If you are an aspirant or know someone who's trying to take another test, you would know what I'm talking about and what sort of expectations each one of them has to go through. Why I have her on this platform is simply because I've seen her trying to redefine the way an aspirant in our society is supposed to look like. Let's dive right into our conversation and see how she's trying to redefine and balance her own academic life with her personal life and sail through those expectations. Hi, Anusha.
Hi.
Before we even understand your journey, firstly, I would like to thank you, first and foremost. Seriously, talking about this journey, it's such a vulnerable state where you are in right now. And not a lot of people talk about it. They either talk about it before they're starting that journey of taking that big test, or they're talking about it after they've achieved it or failed it. So I really, really appreciate this vulnerable conversation.
Thank you for giving me this platform to, voice my opinions, because I don't think a lot of people, even as we speak, trying to explore the other side of the coin or try to see a story which is still not completely seasoned. It's still in the making. It's still like the recipe, the ingredients we're still collecting the ingredients. It's a long way before it's entirely seasoned and then served.
Yeah.
So I think not a lot of people have taken initiative on this side. So kudos to you to A, think of this idea and B, execute it. It's encouraging. It's encouraging personally for me also to see.
The thing is, I've seen you redefine the way test takers take a test. Your exam is the life of it. Like you should forget everything else, just stick to the books, 18 hours a day, study, and you do that. You do that very nicely and in a very fastidious manner. But in India, we have the society always pressurizing us.
I think our parents and just our extended families, they want us to be defined of these exams. They want us to be defined of these titles. And for me individually, when I was stepping into this new phase of my life, I didn't just want to be defined or just didn't want to be known through this one thing that I'm trying to pursue. I want my values to stand before the exam, which is, I think, more integral, because exams, titles, jobs, they are titles, and sure, people do work hard for it. And as I say, I am including myself too. But no one, I think it's not fair to people to be recognized and just be defined of those things. There is so much more to an individual.
Yeah. And this also rings a bell. Like my previous conversation was all about that why do you have to ask someone, ask them to introduce themselves in context of their designation or in context of what they're doing? You should know the person as who they are, what's their story like. So I know for a fact, and there are some people who are your friends also right now, we all know that you were in a job that was paying really well. You had amazing prospects. And even though I know that you had this, goal of yours to take that test, I firstly want to understand that self-talk you had with yourself before you decided to put down your papers and, get into the next phase of it.
So this, for me, the question never really was whether I'd like to appear for this exam or not. It was always, if not now, when then. And this was even before when I went ahead with my job, which lasted for a year. So this was always in the picture, somewhere in the background. And slowly and gradually, once you spend a certain amount of time in the professional world, you're like, okay, you get more clarity as to what your interests are, what kind of future prospects do you want to carve out for yourself. And I think the sooner you do it, the better it is. So it was just the leap of faith, stepping into the uncertain. And I felt this is the right time. Like this is it. If not now, then when?
But I want you to talk about that uncertainty, that leap of faith that you took. What was that constant chattering in your mind that was happening?
So if I'm being completely honest, I never really saw the job coming. After working there for about a year, and when you have a certain dream that you want to chase, it's always there at the back of your head. You never really forget about it entirely, and especially when you see, like, I saw some of my peers chasing it. So I was like, okay, my time, when is my time going to come? And for me, honestly, the regrets, the what ifs, the buts, they were much more devastating than the could be failures. So the mindset shift that I had was that this is my life. I am responsible for my actions. I am responsible for my choices. And I am not willing to give up, at least not without a good fight. So, the weight, the baggage of not trying and giving up before even trying for something was a lot more. And I don't think that anybody who's trying to, chase their dreams should have any sort of dilemma in choosing for what they really think is worth a shot. If you think it's worth a shot, trust me, totally, take that leap of faith, go for it, be more engrossed and engaged in the process rather than just worrying about the end result. Oh, if I don't get into a certain college, or if I don't end up with my dream job. They're the end of the spectrum talks. Be more invested in the process, and you'll realize the kind of fulfillment you have, irrespective of whatever the end result is.
Now that you've spoken about the investment in the process, talk about that. Tell me how you are investing in this process.
This journey for me, I mean, now it's still like I'm still literally in the middle of the journey, and switching from professional life back to academics was literally a 180-degree turn. And from basically carving your life out completely by yourself. You are your biggest critique, and you're the one who's also going to keep your own self accountable. There is nobody who's supervising you. So being held responsible for your decisions, and if you meet deadlines, great. If you don't, so pulling your act together. I had to do all of this by myself. So the things that really kept me motivated were I did not, like, literally, when I'm saying this, trust me, hand on heart, I do not compare myself to others. This is my favorite quote by Michelle Obama: walk your walk. And I couldn't have agreed more with her on this, because it's so important for us to focus on our journeys rather than constantly comparing people who are ahead of us, or who are in similar shoes. But what might have worked for them, it's not necessary that the same thing might work for you. Second of all, when you're doing things, when things take time to materialize, I feel it's important to still be engaged in other passions of yours. It can be anything. For me, fitness has been a really life-centering thing. So I try and work out. I mean, I mostly every single day I am working out. And just to add on to the fitness regime, I've been into the practice of meditation. And these things have not just, helped me tame my thoughts, but have also helped me keep my act together.
Can you give an example with respect to how you tame your thoughts because of these exercises and this meditation?
Mm-hmm. So when you're spending so much time with your own self, your own thoughts can sometimes do the most damage. So for myself to be able to, draw a wedge, draw the line that, this is it. This food for thought is not doing me any good. And I have to, like we were just talking about, the self-talk. Your self-talk has to be really, I was always very conscious of the kind of self-talk I was doing to myself. Because the kind of talk I have with myself, it dictates the kind of choices I would make.
Yeah.
Those choices will get replicated in my behavior. And that behavior is just going to create a chain of experience, which is what we call life. So this is a very interesting, unlocking this entire process was very interesting, but it was also very difficult, because there is no switch on and switch off plug you have for your thoughts. They keep coming in, they keep going out. And meditation has been such a practice where, for people like me who are a little impatient, who are used to jumping onto conclusions, for me to slow down the process, for me to, be more willing to listen to other people's opinions and perspective, was a very life-changing scenario. And this practice also helped me keep things going in a more consistent manner, which was the third thing that I was just going to talk about. That consistency is also a very important trait. Despite the low days, despite the fact that you're feeling that you're in a rut, and why can't we just have a zombie apocalypse and call it the end? Especially on days like this, you get the courage to show up, which is again it's a very liberating, but at the same time also self-encouraging thing. That if I can get past through the first day, I can definitely get past through the second day. And gradually, slowly and slowly, the trait of consistency helps you alter the keys in your brain, helps you wire the thoughts in your brain into doing the most unachievable and difficult task in a very easy and at least in a little more comfortable way.
And when you said showing up, for me it has always been about self-growth, because I was a person who was low on confidence. I was an extrovert, and yet I always felt that I didn't have that confidence. So the past few years have always been about gaining that confidence, building that skill of being confident. For me, showing up, the attitude of showing up was like, it was like a realization I had that showing up isn't just an act. It's a habit you really have to develop each day. So I think once you show up consistently, like you said, each day, make it a habit. Just sit tight, make it a habit, and then you'll see results.
Eventually, it's definitely not, an overnight journey. It takes a while. But the thing is, if the more you practice it, the more you will eventually get better at it. As with any other sport or any other activity that you do, if you want to be good at it, you have to practice it regularly, every single day, day after day.
But you've talked about how it's important to keep following your passions and hobbies, and be consistent in everything that you're doing each day. I want you to talk about certain habits that you have inculcated during this particular time. And something that when people are listening to this, they can really learn something from it and try to mold that habit into their own life.
I think the two most life-changing habits that have been for me, one is having a really solid morning routine. Going to bed at a certain time, waking up at a certain time. So there are some self-regulating rules that I have for myself: is no calls after 11, no texting after 11, hit the bed dot 11, waking up at a certain time. As soon as I wake up, the first thing I do is I make my bed. And these things, I won't check my Instagram until it's Instagram, or for that matter, any social media, until it's 10 or 11 a.m. So I will use the first few hours of the day, which is supposed to be where your brain is supposed to be working at the best and the most efficient level. I'm going to use that time to do the most difficult tasks at hand. So that's what I basically mean about having a solid routine. If you have a routine, things are already in place. You don't waste a lot of mental capacity of yours thinking, oh, now what should I do? Have those things pre-decided, and it's going to get so much more easier. After a point in time, you will wake up and you'll be so accustomed to doing a certain thing that you literally wouldn't even have to think, give it another thought. The second thing was planning my day ahead. And sometimes I'd even plan my week ahead. So this would, and when I say planning, like literally planning the entire day. If I have to do my breakfast, what time I'm going to do my breakfast, a specific time for lunch, a specific time for dinner. In between, I'll divide my entire day in slots, and I will now that I'm back at academics, so I have to, if I'm studying multiple subjects in a day, so I will allot particular time slots to those subjects, and then I will just do that. If I'm working out, what time is it that I'm working out? If I have to speak to somebody on the phone, I know this is a little extreme, but if I have to speak to someone, if I have to speak with someone on the phone, that is going to be this particular time that I'm going to do that in. And I will stick to it. It is easier said than done, but the more you practice it, the more better you're going to get at it. The more better you're going to get at the act.
Yeah.
So this not just helped reduce my procrastination levels. I was able to meet deadlines. I was not getting overwhelmed and too worked out by the amount of work I have to do. And things were falling into place, and it was just more smooth, and my targets seemed more achievable. So small things like these, sometimes I think we take it for granted, but they can truly be life-changing. You just have to be consistent and committed. That's all it's going to take.
You know, when you spoke about the morning routine, let me tell you, I was this, I mean, this is for everyone else. I was this shitty ass person who used to Netflix at night. I felt that I was wasting my time. I used to wake up, around, say, by probably like 11, 12. And like, I wasn't really pumped, I wasn't pumped in my life. There wasn't something that I was excited about. And the person I am, I'm supposed to be excited. Like, my default is hyper, impulsive, excited. But here I am, I think 4 months down, and I'm doing just fine. I'm loving my routine. I've blogged the first hour of the day. The moment I wake up, I make my bed like you do. I love making my bed. That's my favorite 2-minute activity
so
that I do.
Therapeutic. You feel so nice. Everything is decluttered, and trust me, once you've made that bed, if you have a little bit of OCD, nothing on earth is going to, make you ruin that and redo the same task. So it's a win-win scenario.
Favorite slot of the day. Trust me, leave everything else. And then I block that 1 hour. The moment I wake up, I block my 1 hour. I make my green tea or my protein shake, and I sit with the book outside. That's all. Nobody can disturb me in that hour, and that's just the best part of my day. And then, everything starts off early. You have so much to do. Like, you have so many hours left to do everything else. So even though I'm not really busy as a person, I still can invest so much time in my growth, in building relations, in keeping those relations. So I totally vouch for the morning.
And having a good relationship with your own self. Like they say, a good morning dictates the rest of your day. How your morning is going to be, that's going to dictate how the rest of the day is going to follow through. So which is also very true.
Yeah, now that you've actually spoken about it, tell them about how you talk to yourself. How do you indulge in that self-love? Because I know the narcissistic person you are. Once a narcissistic, that's an extreme term. But I know the amount of self-love you have. Like, my favorite home. I want you to share that.
I think this definitely took its own sweet time to happen to me. And once I realized, how fulfilling and how satisfying it is to speak to yourself with kindness and compassion. And when you realize the fact that your happiness is not dependent on how other people are making you feel, but truly how you yourself are making you feel. So that felt like, that literally made me feel like I am in control. I am in control of my life. I am in control of my happiness. Irrespective of the external scenarios, irrespective of what's happening in the external world, I can still keep myself at peace. And self-love is a way to building on more of self-esteem, self-confidence. And this just starts by appreciating and giving yourself a pat at the back of the small things you've achieved. It can be daily, it could be weekly, and you will see it's a little philosophical. A lot of practical things can't be said here, but I think for me, I've always appreciated the little acts. If there's something that I've done, it just makes me feel good about myself. And I think self-love is all about making you feel good about your own self, irrespective of how other people are treating you. What's more important is the way you treat your own self.
I'm sorry, but my question that just immediately popped up was that how do you do it when the times are not really going well? When people are trying to pull you down, when situations are trying to tweak you out all the time. It's not really easy to love yourself at that time when you know you're not doing your best. And I know that's the time when you really need to indulge in self-love all the more. But it's so difficult. So have you had anything like that? If yes, how was it like?
I completely agree with you. And I think every human comes across this certain stage in life where they're definitely bogged down with because of external people or because of external situations that they have absolutely no control over.
Yeah.
And one thing that has really helped me was meditation, still is, like I just mentioned before. And secondly, when you're trying to cut the chase and when you're trying to, create an identity of your own, you have to really put this to mind that, things like work ethic doesn't come with genes, diligence doesn't come with genes, zeal and motivation doesn't come with genes. Why am I saying this is because in my personal experience, I've been compared to the fact that I have parents from really high academic background, being compared to them. And, you always feel that, I want to do more. I want to achieve it all. So things like these, they used to really bog me down. And to keep my own self going, because the race is really long. You can't really bog down with every second comment or every mere noise that you hear in the background.
True.
So all of these traits are self-inculcated. You're not born with any of these things. So we're all on the same page. It's up to us whether to fall victim to these circumstances or change this mentality and have our own recipe for success.
Right. And when you say that it's so important to love yourself at the times when everything is just going down, I feel like personally for me, what works best is that when I do small, so like again, the idea of love language also comes into play here, okay? So I know that I love quality time and gifts. So what I do is to love myself more, I do small acts like buying myself a fragrant candle or buying myself some shoes or simply playing some loud music, shutting the door and dancing my ass off, wildly. And that's how I show love to myself. So I think it's very important for people also to understand that your love language is not just for people you love, but also for yourself. And it's only during these very uncertain times, these times wherein you feel like you aren't worth anything, you really have to, jump out, launch yourself and do those things that you would do for someone else, but do it for yourself this time.
And just to add on to your point, it's so important to show yourself, to do certain acts for yourself. It just reassures the fact that your happiness is not always dependent on other people.
So true.
You can be the birth giver of your own happiness. It's very much possible. It's all about the self-love. It's all about you empowering your own self and just making yourself feel good over anything and everything.
That's so true. And I really hope people resonate with this, because the very notion of belittling yourself, engaging in that skeptic attitude that our society has tuned us into, it's very important, especially nowadays during this pandemic. It's so important to just remind yourself each morning that you have so much to be grateful for, and you have so much to be grateful for yourself, for your own self. You are alive, You are breathing. You have a purpose, even if you haven't figured it out. You can figure it out. Just love yourself a little more. Give yourself a hug each day. You get better.
Just be consistent with self-love too.
Yeah. Yes. So I think that's about self-love. But before I end this conversation, what's that one thing that you feel that you wish you had known earlier? You wish you had known before you dived into this journey of taking that kick-ass test? What would that be?
So I'll just make it a little generic so that more people can relate to it. But the one thing that has really, changed my game is resisting temptations. Be consistent. I know I've emphasized this point throughout the video a lot because for me, this particular trait has changed me on multiple levels. And I want anyone and everyone who's listening to this to truly understand the value that this trait carries because it's very self-empowering. So resist those temptations, be consistent, and giving into those temptations will make things easy just this once. But those one times can change your whole entire life. Embrace your story, embrace the highs, the lows. And we gravitate to one another when we see both the best and the worst in ourselves. It makes us feel more human. And trust me, people connect to the humanness of your story. So be open, be vulnerable, and you'll be loved for the way you are. Just embrace yourself wholeheartedly.
That's so true, and that's so empowering as well. That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to, voice my opinions. I truly feel extremely grateful to be able to share my views with somebody who matches my wavelength and who matches the idea and the meaning I have for life. It's self-rewarding to share a platform like this with
I'll
you.
cry. Stop. You know how easily I cry.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know.
Thank you, Anusha. I think we should connect after this call. Obviously, we will. I'm so grateful for you. I hope people who are listening or watching, you have things to take away, something or the other. I really hope even if it was a small point you took away, I'll be so happy about that. Let me know if you do. And let's meet next week again. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.